Oh, I hate to quit that early, but I had no idea that had no sound. Oh my god.
Whoops.
My bad. I I downloaded the video. I went through like 5 different MP4 streams to try to download that video.
Oh, God.
And then it was just giving me hell for whatever reason. And I was like, oh, cool. I finally got it downloaded. But little did I know it was downloaded without sound. So that's weird. Little bit of a mistake there, but who knows? We probably might have gotten a copyright score anyways because
It's a great way to start the episode. You know, we're snowed in. Things are going to go wrong. Kind of an off the cuff episode, you know. Starting off on a crazy foot kind of makes sense.
Which makes sense because my list is very crazy today. So basically, what we're doing is a kind of a snowed in. I came up with this idea last minute because for the past couple of days, I've been snowed in. Technically, my work was open today. They decided to open, but I literally had to call my boss and say, I literally can't get out of my driveway. My car is frozen and the driveway is completely frozen solid. And so they were like, okay, you don't have to come in today. So I've technically had 2 snow days off, and it's been kind of crazy. It's now just pure ice here, basically. And I know that you also just had a big winter storm that came in as well.
Yeah,
so,
over yet most of today and like last night and into tomorrow morning, it's been really snowing bad here. So I'm hoping things clear up in time for me to get to the theater tomorrow, because hopefully I can come on here and review Captain America, but I might be snowed in, so I might not be watching it. We'll see.
yeah, we'll see. But that just makes it all the more meta and all the more fun to be able to come on here and do a video for you guys, a snowed in stream, talking about the best snowy environment kind of movies. There's actually several of these, way more than I was thinking there was going to be. Basically, films that will take place in the snow, or at least an entire act of the movie has to have taken place in the snow for it to count. It can't just be like one scene. Like, so I'm not going to count like a Blade Runner 2049, because that literally was like one scene where it automatically starts snowing on top of him or whatever. We're not counting that kind of stuff. But we're counting stuff that's like a whole scene or a whole act, or throughout the whole movie. Another rule is you could do this entire list and cheat with like 10 Christmas movies between each of us. So because of that, I've limited it to where we are only allowed to mention one Christmas movie each. So like he's allowed to mention a Christmas movie and I'm allowed to mention one Christmas movie. The rest have to be non-Christmas, just to make it fair. If we can do like Christmas rankings in December later on, but this is just a snowy movies ranking list. So we're going to start off with that. And yeah, we'll basically just get the ball rolling here with any honorable mentions. Now, what's interesting is, so we all have our own different ways on how we determine our lists and such. For me, I'm going to be doing things a little differently. So I'll go first on the honorable mentions. So basically what I'm doing differently on my list is that there are films on here that y'all are straight up going to be like, what the hell? Why is that there? Or like, what the hell? Why is that not on there? Y'all, and even I would question that too. But here's the thing. I'm making my list purely based on the best utilization of snow that is in a movie. Like when I watch the 10 films that are on my list, I feel utterly cold. Like I need a cup of hot cocoa to like just press up to me like this in a warm blanket to watch as I sip on it. Like it makes me feel that cold watching it. So that's kind of the level of where I went. So there's going to be films I talk about on my top 10 that I actually don't like. And then there's going to be films on my top 10 that I do like. And so it's going to be interesting, but just to talk about like how the snow utilizes and how it's done in the movie. So because of that, there's going to be some ones on my honorable mentions that did not make my list, but I will tell you right now, quality-wise, hell yeah, they would be here in a heartbeat because they're like some of my favorite movies of all time, such as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Phenomenal movie. Absolutely love it. One of my top 10 movies of all time. And then another top 10 movie of all time for me is The Empire Strikes Back, that Hoth sequence. You cannot forget that Hoth sequence. It's incredible. Another Star Wars film that I think used snow really well and thought was a really good movie overall was The Force Awakens. That's one I wanted to mention in there as an honorable mention. And then the other honorable mention I have is one that just barely missed my list. Just barely. It was literally on my list, and then I took it off for something else today. I might contemplate putting it back on, but I don't know. I was so close because this film does make me feel cold. But I was like, it was one that looking back at it, I'm like, there are several like indoor scenes. There are several scenes that like not necessarily in the snow and all that stuff. So I decided to leave it off the list, and that one is Let the Right One In. So I decided to put that on my honorable mentions. But it's a great movie that uses snow excellently and makes me feel really cold when I watch it as well. Really, really well done movie there. And then one so I'll allow like us to mention one Christmas movie in an honorable mention since we're allowed one Christmas movie in our top tens. One Christmas movie I want to throw in honorable mentions is actually Ron Howard's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Classic right there.
Just
Iconic.
because that one literally has snow throughout the entire damn movie. It's another one that almost made my list. I actually was close to putting it on my list because I was like, this uses snow like the entire movie. So, and just a really fun one that I watch every year that I really do genuinely enjoy. And then as far as other ones, Everest, made me afraid to ever go up on Mount Everest. And I'm trying to see if there was one more. Misery. Misery is another one that I thought, as far as Stephen King adaptations go and such. This one almost made my list as well. This actually was on my list, and I just took it off. But I wanted to mention it because I think the snow is very important, and it does make you feel very cold when you watch it. Is The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. That's one I really wanted to mention because that snow was used brilliantly. So, like it's getting in like tough, like in like Aslan's hair and all that shit, and there's like the Snow Queen or whatever. So, like of course it's going to use that, and then of course the live action Frozen that they did, I thought that one's great, and Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush. That's kind of the honorable mentions I wanted to mention on there. I mean, that I could go on for hours. Oh, one I didn't have on my list, I have to mention this, is The Shining. I was very close to putting that on my list, but it actually just missed. Like, I know, shocking, but it like just missed.
I thought it was going to be on here.
Yeah, it's because it's only really, to me, it's always only really been the ending sequence. Like that whole ending sequence, it's like, oh, okay, then that's like, that snow is like kind of, that makes you feel like cold there in the very end. The other ones kind of make me feel cold throughout the whole movie, basically, almost. So that's why I went with the ones I did end up going with. So that's my honorable mentions. Which ones do you have?
I don't have as many as you, but I do have some I want to mention. One I wanted to include, but I cut because it's a TV movie and it's like a 2-part TV movie, so I didn't really think it counted to be a movie. It's Storm of the Century, but based off of a Stephen King book. This is about like a lone island, like a little island community that is cut off from society, and this big blizzard comes in and cuts them off, and now like they kind of have no supplies. They have no safety, and as this is all going on, some mysterious old man comes into town and says, you know, give me all of your children, and if you don't do that, the storm's going to get worse and worse and worse forever. And I really like this movie's cold, isolating kind of feeling. Snow can be that, where it cuts you off and makes it feel like you're totally alone. And I really like this movie's setting and the way it uses that. I would love to include it, but I just decided not to, just because of the TV movie side of it. For the same logic, I didn't include Decalogue by Krzysztof Kieslowski, who's known for doing the Three Colors trilogy. This was his even longer series, 11 hours long. Decalogue following various people in an apartment complex, and the first one in particular is set like around now or Christmas time, and it's about this apartment complex set along the ice, and there's a father and a mother who are recently divorced, and their kid is kind of stuck in the middle, and he's wandering out playing on the ice and, you know, stuff where he shouldn't be. And I feel like this really captures the fear that can instill in like the big scope of nature, and how ice and snow can really have that isolating effect where you feel like you're just one little small thing in this grand scope of reality. And I don't want to spoil how things work out in the movie, but like the way that the ice plays in throughout the rest of this first part of Decalogue is really powerful. So I went for Decalogue in my honorable mentions. I also want to mention lastly here one documentary-ish called Nanook of the North. This is a documentary in the sense of the early 1920s about people who are indigenous people living in the far north of Canada, and follows like them living in the snow and hunting for food and building, you know, igloos out of ice and stuff like that. But the problem is a lot of this is staged, and a lot of this was kind of, you know, fictionalized in a way to reinforce a lot of negative stereotypes. But I wanted to include it because for me, when I think of snowy movies, I think of like, you know, people having to live in the snow and live off of the wilderness, live off of the land, and how are you going to eat? How are you going to, you know, find water and food? And this gives you a fictional but kind of fun look into what that might be like. And it's snowy, it's ice the entire movie. It's a very, very cold movie. It's all about like, how do you stay warm? How do you not freeze to death, you know, and how do you find joy within all of that? So Nanook of the North got an honorable mention for me.
Nice. Those are all three ones I have not seen, so I'm gonna have to actually put those on my radar and check those out. So thank you for throwing those on my radar and on other people's radar. My now on to our top 10. My number 10 is one that kind of falls in line similarly to what you were saying. It's like kind of about just trying to survive in an environment of that's like filled with snow, and just really makes you feel that cold feeling, both on like kind of a metaphorical and literal level in a way, and done expertly. And that is Taylor Sheridan's Wind River is my number 10. This is a film that is definitely, I want to preface this again, because I know y'all are going to say my list is insane. All right. I want to preface this by saying this is better than my number 9 pick. I want to throw that out there. Quality wise, this is far superior to my number 9 pick. But I'm going based on how the snow is in the movie. And yeah, Wind River, I have it at 10 because out of all these, it's not like the most like, oh my God, I need to bundle up and like actually wear layers while I'm watching this movie. But it is still utilizes snow in a really strong way. And I think that just it kind of adds to the coldness of the world that he is conveying in here, that Taylor Sheridan's throwing at us, like just how cold the brutality can be of humanity and everything, and just like all of that really ties in together with how it's used in this film. Elizabeth Olsen is excellent in here. Jeremy Renner is really great in here as well. I thought that Wind River was just absolutely an exceptional film from start to finish, and one of my favorite Taylor Sheridan films. However, I did see it like 3 times, and then after I saw it like for the third time, I was like, you know what? I think I'm done for a while. Only because like this film takes a lot out of you.
It's a heavy one.
It really trades you. And like all 3 times, I was like in a very bad mood after watching it because it just drains you that much. And I was like, I think I'm done for a while. So I haven't watched it in like a long time because of that. But it is a great film. So I definitely recommend it for sure. What's your number 10, man?
My number 10 is one that I debated a lot on which one to include because there's so many iconic James Bond snow sequences, across the franchise of James Bond. But being myself, I had to go for the kind of outsider shot. Like one of my favorite Bond movies, one of my favorite James Bonds is Roger Moore. I think he has a really fun, campy side of Bond, and his opening sequence have A View to a Kill, where he jumps down on the ski slope, and as he's jumping and escaping, California Girls kicks in from the Beach Boys, and the pure irony of him coming down as this avalanche is coming behind him on the ski slope as California Girls kicks in behind Bond. That was enough for me to say from the first like 1 minute of this movie that, okay, I'm completely in on A View to a Kill. So I wanted to throw A View to a Kill in. I went through so many of the different, there's more iconic Bond movies to include here, like On Her Majesty's Secret Service has probably the big iconic Bond snow chase. And there's probably like 10 different Bond snow scenes. But when I think of Bond snow scenes, I can't help but come back to how instantaneously this single moment sold me on View to a Kill.
Yeah, that's a really good one, and Use the Snow really well. There's like you said, there's several James Bond films out there that use the snow really well. No Time to Die, one of the most recent ones, uses it really well. The one Die Another Day uses snow really well. So yeah, they've definitely, there's a lot of snowy Bond films for sure. And wasn't there even the sequence that was like kind of in the snow in Goldeneye as well?
I'm sure. I think so. Yeah.
So, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff like that in the James Bond films that are just really, really excellent. So that's a really good pick there. My number 9 is, again, for y'all who are just joining in the live stream, some of these films I don't particularly like, okay? I put this on the list because of how it utilizes snow. This is my Christmas movie. Out of all the Christmas movies, I went with this one because this is the film that makes me feel the coldest when I watch it. Like, holy shit, is this a Frozen movie? And no, it's not Frozen. It is Krampus. And that is the one I'm going with from 2015 as my other snow film I'm going to mention at number 9, because the scene where Krampus is like chasing Beth, the whole house is like coated in ice, and like she's hiding under the car, and like there's like ice all over the cars, there's just all over everything. Like it is completely covered in snow. And then there's like those little snow creature monsters that like fight them at one point in the movie as well to add on top of it. So they do a lot of different stuff with snow in this movie, and I just watch it every single time I see it, and I'm like, oh, I feel cold. I need to drink some hot cocoa with this. Forget eggnog. I'm getting some hot cocoa right now because this is like I'm feeling it right now from this movie. So it kind of has that impact on there. Yes, it's not a perfect movie by any means. It gets kind of over the top. I feel like they're doing too much with all the different kinds of creatures that they have in here, like they should have focused on Krampus. Eventually, it doesn't even become a Krampus movie. It becomes like Krampus and friends. Like he's in the background, and you just kind of get like all these other little creatures that they're fighting in the house. And there are some other like character decisions that's, you know, really stupid and all this other kind of stuff that I wasn't vibing with when I saw it. I actually saw it for the first time, actually, a couple of years ago in a theater, because my theater was doing these Christmas movie re-releases, and for whatever reason they re-released Krampus, and I was like, I've never seen Krampus. Hey, it's playing in a theater. I'm gonna go see it now for the holidays. And I did, and hey, I mean, I'm glad I got to see it in theater. But walking out, as soon as I was walking out with my friend, I was running to the car to turn on my heater. And it was just like, oh, okay, now we can get out of the cold just after seeing that movie. Because like, man, this is a cold movie for sure. So that's why I have Krampus at number 9.
My number 9 is one where when I close my eyes and I think of snow scene, this is the first scene that appears in my retinas in any movie ever. But I have it low just because I don't necessarily call the whole movie a snow movie. But when you think of snow scenes, you see the AT-AT walking across Hoth in The Empire Strikes Back. And I think there's not just this one sequence. Like you can discredit it and be like, oh, it's just like that one part, but it's the whole like opening act of Empire Strikes Back. Like Luke goes out into the snow and gets lost and nearly freezes to death out there, and it goes into the cave and is found by like this abominable snowman type of monster, you know, and Han goes out looking for him, and there's the whole sequence of them cutting open the like creature that they're living inside and having to stick Luke into the guts of this creature, and Han having that line of, oh, I think they smelled bad on the outside. And there's all of that build up leading up to that action sequence, you know, and just that pure isolation of having to live in like this tiny like metal thing that it's just between you and death is this one wall. And that's what the opening sequence of Hoth gives you. And you feel like it immediately sells you on how the rebellion is losing. Like they had that big win at the end of New Hope, but the isolation and total desperation of this snowy sequence shows you like, oh, it is not even close to over yet. They're down on their heels still. And I really love the sequence. And yeah, I would love to put it higher if I was ranking like movies, but like the fact that it's just that opening like 20 minutes is snowy and the rest of it is not snowy. For me, that's what puts it this low. But yeah, if you're thinking snow scenes, this is the snow scene.
Oh yeah, it's like the definitive snow scene with just how impactful it was in pop culture. And when people will now talk about snow scenes, what are they going to talk about? They're going to talk at the end of The Shining and Hoth. Like those are the first two that they're going to bring up as far as individual scenes go. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now moving on to number 8. My number 8 is one that I definitely needed some to when this dropped on Netflix and I watched it. I definitely needed some hot coffee or some hot cocoa to drink with it, because this was making me feel cold along with all the other people that were in this accident, which is Society of the Snow. It is on Netflix. It is basically about a Ugarian Air Force Flight 571 charted to take a rugby team to Chile, but it crashes into a glacier in the heart of the Andes, and the whole movie is just this group of people trying to survive. It's based on true events. And yeah, a truly emotional gut punch of a movie. You really get invested in all these characters, and then to see which ones do end up dying and not, it's just really just such a roller coaster ride. This film is, and you really feel what they're going through. Like there's like the stuff of where like their whole lips are starting to get really dried from the snow. You can see like how they get dry skin all over their hands and dry skin all over their face. Like you can really see that kind of torment that they're having to go through trying to survive the snow environment. So uh, technically, I should maybe put this a little higher than my number 7, but for now, I'm going to put it um, at number 8. I do really like this movie. I thought it was one of J.A. Bayona's best movies, who is responsible for The Impossible, A Monster Calls, The Orphanage, and we don't talk about the other film he did. So, which is Jurassic Peak. No,
We'll talk about it someday. You know, I'll pitch my defense.
Jurassic, yeah, I know, but yeah. So that is Society of the Snow, my number 8. What is your number 8, Tristan?
My number 8 is one where I would love to include it higher as well, similar to Empire Strikes Back, but there's only like a couple of sequences in here that are snow scenes, but to me, they're like the most beautiful snow scenes I've ever seen in a movie, and that's The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, the musical by Jacques Demy from the 1964. It's a French musical entirely sung through, and it's set across multiple seasons, you know, of course, across time, and the whole winter sequence towards the end of the movie and the beginning of the movie, because it's kind of circular in the time structure. So like the beginning is a wintry time and the end is a wintry time. And the ending in particular is just incredibly beautiful. When I think of snow and how beautiful it can look, and we talked about how terrifying and how scary it can look, but we also want to cover how just genuinely gorgeous the snow-covered landscape can look, and how incredibly beautiful like a city lights with snow dripping down it can look, and how that can almost feel like this beautiful like passage of time is happening. You know, like when you get to the end of the year and the snow is coming down, and you can think of what can be ahead of you and what can next year bring to you, and snow coming down can kind of represent that future, you know. And I think Umbrellas captures the beauty of snow, and it's a really incredible movie. It's in one of my favorite movies of all time, so I might have just tried to sneak it in here to talk about it a little bit, but it is beautiful and incredible snow sequences in this movie. So watch it if you want to see gorgeous stuff and you want to cry and you want to see really beautiful snowy gas station sequence at the end. That just the peak of cinema right there.
Oh man, you might kill me for me saying this. This is one of my biggest blind spots. Umbrellas.
You gotta watch it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about us doing a event. I can talk about it now, but doing a review series in May called Musical May. As like a little fun play on words, where we're just gonna kind of break down and review certain different musicals throughout the month of May, and Umbrellas of Cherbourg we could do, and I could finally be like my first experience with watching that movie.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We gotta plan that out. I'd love to curate a nice little musical month for us all. If you want to watch Umbrellas, I forgot to mention the first couple of ones, but I want to, as I go along, mention where you can watch the movies. But Umbrellas is on Max. It's also on Criterion, and if you have a library card, it's for free on Canopy right now.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I know Wind River is available on VOD, and then Krampus is available on Max right now. As far as
you can find Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah, Empire Strikes Back is on Disney Plus, so that one's easy. But all the George Lucas added stuff is on there because he decided to tamper with his own movies.
Empire is not super different. Like Empire is probably the least changed. So if you're worried about the special effects or special edition stuff on Disney Plus, if there's one you can blink and you'll miss it, it's Empire. You know?
Yeah.
You're not really seeing a bunch of CGI creatures walking in front of the camera and distracting you from the dialogue. It's just kind of, let's change some colors.
So my number 7, I wanted to show off something for it real quick. I'll be right back.
Uh-oh, he's going to grab, I'm assuming, a 4K copy of whatever he's about to talk about. If you watch the channel, we have a 4K bet going on regarding Best Picture at the Oscars this year. It's going to
There it
be
is.
I'm saying I'm still here, and if it's I'm still here, then I have to buy him. He has to buy me a 4K if it's I'm still here. If it's what he predicts, Sonora, he has to buy me one. So that's our bet. I was explaining to them our 4K bet, assuming that is what you're coming back here with is a physical copy of whatever you're about to bring up. But yeah, I was reinforcing how much I'm going to beat you and how we're going to all be cheering for the fact that we had the upset, but you're going to be crying afterwards because I'm going to be on Amazon picking out a nice hefty special edition for you to buy for me. You know.
I'm gonna be cheering super loud as soon as it happens on camera. I'm gonna be jumping up and down, just giddy with excitement. And then the after show is gonna kick in, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe now what I have to do." It's gonna be crazy, but we'll see. Honora's picking up momentum. That's
We'll
all I'll
see.
say. Go watch that episode, guys. So I wanted to show this off because they started doing these exclusive slip covers to advertise Deadpool 2, and Deadpool 2 is coming out, where they would like put Deadpool on a bunch of slip covers on Blu-rays. And so my number 7, again, not a movie that I love. It's a guilty pleasure though, to be honest. This one's kind of a guilty pleasure though. I do have fun watching it. It's not one that I would normally have this high on a list, but for a list like this, sure. Day After Tomorrow, which is a disaster movie. Had to include it. There's a Deadpool cover with him riding his rubber ducky on the.
That's pretty good.
On the on the flood happening. I had to include this because literally all of New York gets frozen over. Like all the buildings are completely frozen. You even have the Statue of Liberty completely just frozen. And they zoom in on it, and she's like holding it up, and it's just like ice everywhere. Like, yeah, it's insane what they do with snow in this movie. And then they ended up like encountering like snow dogs at one point, and all this other like snow wolves, I should say, all this type of stuff. Like there's all this different. And then the opening of the movie too involves ice, where like the ice is breaking or whatever, and like they're dealing with it. So like there's a lot of uses of snow and ice and all that good stuff in this movie, as well as just other great disaster sequences with like tornadoes, where like a billion tornadoes are going all at once, just causing mass destruction. Even if that's not even physically possible, we don't care because it's like just glorious.
It's cool,
to see.
though.
It's glorious to see all that mass destruction happen, and then seeing like the gigantic flood coming into New York again. Probably, I don't know if that's something that could actually realistically ever happen, but but it was super cool and like made for a super awesome sequence. And Roland Emmerich, man, go back to doing these cheesy disaster movies, because 2012 was a blast. Was it good? No. Was it a blast? Yes. And same with Day After Tomorrow. This one is absolutely a blast as well. Like I have a really fun time with this. Jake Gyllenhaal is in here, a younger Jake Gyllenhaal. He does a really good job in here. Dennis Quaid's pretty solid in this film as well. Day After Tomorrow, it's just one of the better disaster movies. Emmy Rossum, who I had a crush on during this time, is also in there. Really, really good as well. Yeah, that whole hey Mike, hey I'm gonna say hey Mike. I was right, comment, but hey Flash Move, Pop Culture 13. How are you doing, Kyle? Good to see you, man. I saw your message, and yes, we definitely have to get you back on the channel here very soon. We'll be doing
Acres of Movies was also in here. I hadn't had the chat open for a second, but they had asked if he had talked about Misery. That was in your honorable mentions. Misery, definitely a snowy movie.
Yeah, it was definitely in my honorable mentions. That's one that I threw in there earlier. I left it off just because like most of the movie takes place indoors, so it's not really a movie that like makes me feel like super duper cold, you know, when I watch it. So that's the only reason why I left it off this list. But Day After Tomorrow, for that third act sequence alone, like I had to include it. So, um, what's your number 7?
My number 7, I just talked about a couple that are some of my favorite movies that I would love to get higher, and this is one that is above both of those, but it's not close to being better. This just is a much more of a snowy movie, and it's 30 Days of Night from 2007, starring icon Josh Hartnett, Mr. Trap himself, one of his early 2000s movies. And this is set in a small town where, like you can guess from the title, there's 30 days within the year where it's straight for 30 days. It's nothing but night. The sun never rises, almost the opposite of Chris Nolan's Insomnia. You know, when I wanted to get Insomnia, I was like, surely it's like snow somehow factors in. And I watched it, and this isn't like August or something, so it doesn't snow at all. I was like, damn, I got to go 30 days a night, I guess, you know? So let's go with 30 Days a Night. I've always been fascinated by these parts of the world where time almost slips away in terms of the setting of the sun and how surreal and unnerving that can be. And I really think that this captures that well, and how they're losing track of time and losing track of their sanity, and just the constant snow all the time, cold and snow, and how disorienting that can be. And you completely lose track of where you are, what day it is, who's who, and who's, you know, and just the fear in this movie, and the total terror of the action and the slockiness of the horror here. So you mentioned something like that's just fun to watch, and this is definitely just kind of like a fun to watch kind of schlocky horror movie, but it also does capture that paranoia of, you know, totally losing track of time and isolation, and how snowy weather can feed into that. So I have a really good time watching 30 Days a Night. I honestly haven't watched it in a very long time, but I kind of want to watch it again. So I'm thinking about throwing it on the TV after I finish this.
Yeah, I also own that one on Blu-ray, and I didn't really have time to watch like any snowy movie today because I'm snowed in here, and my mom never seen Seven Samurai, and she told me that, and I was like, what? And so I was like, you've never seen it? So I had to introduce her to that film. So I didn't really have time to watch any like snowy kind of stuff. So what I am probably going to do is watch 30 Days a Night again here very soon, because I kind of am in the mood for that, since it's all like icy and kind of cold and Arctic here right now. So I definitely am in the mood for that. But yeah, I really like this film a lot. I think Josh Hartnett is really good in here. I like the vampires in here and like the design of the vampires. I think they're really menacing and terrifying. And I've not read the comic it's based on, but I've heard it's really good too. So yeah, it's one that definitely I also would have put in my honorable mentions. This is
It's from that crazy time in the early 2000s horror where they were just not giving a shit about gore. They were like, yeah, we're just going to cut people's heads off and like blow up bodies. And you're like, this is grim. Like, it's shocking to go back and watch stuff like this now. You're like, good God, we were upset, you know, and we were not feeling good.
The only warning I'll give you, and yeah, this is sort of like a spoiler, but this is like an early 2000s movie. So like, y'all can let it slide. But for some of y'all who might be animal lovers, it would be kind of hard to watch this film because they start off with like feeding on the snow dogs, and then they realize that there's other humans out there that are, you know, even tastier, and that's what, you know, they come after later. So if y'all are into animals, just fair warning, there's some stuff in here with that, but yeah, still a really great movie overall. And I've gotten to meet Josh Hartnett's sister. Haven't gotten to meet Josh Hartnett, but I got to meet his sister. And when I met his sister, we like talked about 30 Days a Night and some of Josh Hartnett's other work as well. Like that was in the green room after we were done with the interview. So yeah, that's a really good one. So now on to our number 6, which my number 6 is going to be The Revenant, which is the Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu film from 2015, just coming off of Birdman. He then did this film. This won Leonardo DiCaprio his first ever Oscar win, finally, after like decades of being nominated and then getting snubbed. He finally gets in for this or wins for this. And sure, was it deserved? Yes. But was it also for the wrong movie? Yes. That's how I feel. Because I feel like he should have won for like Wolf of Wall Street and some other movies earlier in his career. However, The Revenant, exceptional movie at making you feel cold and the isolation of trying to survive in a cold environment, where Hugh Glass is basically, you know, by himself through most of the movie, and he's trying to survive this snowy wilderness. He's trying to survive a bear. He's trying to survive Tom Hardy's villain. He's trying to survive a bunch of stuff here. He gets it's a movie that makes you feel so cold. In fact, he literally has to cut open an animal and lay inside it just so he can get warm. Like it's that kind of a movie that when it utilizes the snow. And I thought the way that they shot this film with like natural lighting was really gorgeous, really stunning, in my opinion. And it's directed really well. And yeah, the whole cast is great. The effects are great from like the bear and such. I studied this whole story in high school the year it was coming out too. So I was like invested in this entire history of Hugh Glass and what happened there. So interesting film. Great use of snow. So The Revenant is my number 6. What's your number 6?
We had interesting logic because my pick is similar to The Revenant, but when I think of a survival in the snow premise, I go to The Gray, starring Liam Neeson.
That's going to be brought up here soon for me. But yeah,
This is in the vein of what Liam Neeson has been doing lately, where it's just kind of like Liam Neeson's a guy who has to survive, but this is actually great. Like, and it's before he kind of went schlock with that premise, and it's actually very dire and existential, and it's about Liam Neeson is a worker at an oil refinery, and him and his other workers get in a horrific plane accident and are stranded out in the woods, and they're surrounded by very hungry wolves. And the marketing made this out to be like, oh, Liam Neeson like goes and punches wolves in the face and like like fights to survive like a superhero. And then you watch it, and it's just one of the most dire and grim movies I've watched in like a long time at that point. And I was like, good God, they did not make this out to be what it was. But yeah, it was. I really think this captures just the grimness of having to survive against impossible odds and the realism of that. Like these movies so often go for like, we're gonna play on your heartstrings, and maybe one or two people die, maybe some people die, but at the end we're gonna have the people you care about the most are gonna make it, and we're gonna have the music swell, and everyone's gonna feel good at the end. And this movie, just as you're going along, you're slowly realizing like this is not gonna make me feel good at the end, and you're realizing it as he's realizing it, but nonetheless he's fighting to survive anyway. Even knowing what the end result is going to be, he keeps up this Sisyphusian task of fighting to survive in the wilderness anyway. And I really, really love that for The Gray. It was a shock when I watched it, because when I first walked out, I said, I don't think I like that at all. But when you contextualize it to what it actually is versus what it was pushed to be, you're like, oh, that was actually very, very good. So I recommend The Gray a lot. It's streaming right now on Prime, so you can watch it on Prime right now.
nice. Yeah, we'll definitely be getting to The Gray here very soon because I'm also going to have that on my list. I think that's so far our only crossover that we have.
I think
which
so.
which is interesting. I'm wondering if it's going to stay that way, if that's going to be our only crossover. My next one is one I don't even know if you've seen. I watched this one time for a tournament fights episode because it was going to be on there, and I was like, hey, gotta get this done and over with. I wanted to see it in 2018, but I didn't have a chance to, so I sat down on Netflix. I don't know if it's streaming on there anymore, but it was on Netflix at the time. No, it's on Amazon Prime Video, so you can watch it on there now. But it was called Arctic, and it stars Mads Mikkelsen. Basically, Mads Mikkelsen, the whole movie. It's literally Mads Mikkelsen. On Letterboxd, there is 3 cast members, which is Mads Mikkelsen, Maria Thelma. Not going to say your last name. As just because I can't pronounce that, as the young woman, and then Triana. I'm not going to say your last name either. As the helicopter pilot. So there's like 3 cast members this entire movie, which is kind of insane. But most of the movie follows Mads Mikkelsen, basically, just trying to survive after his plane crashes, and he's on this long journey of just trying to wait until someone comes and finds him, and this one girl that was like with him is, she's still alive, and he's trying to take care of her as well and bundle her up and get her warm and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, that's something that is kind of interesting. It just kind of throws you in. It never shows you what accident he gets into, how it happens, all this stuff. You literally just start off, he's surviving in the snow, and you're following this character, and it's this character study that's really, really well done. Mads Mikkelsen's exceptional in this, but that's like saying water's wet. Like he's an amazing actor, but like he is so good in this. And the way the snow utilizes, we talked about it earlier. This has so much of like your skin starting to fall off your face because you're that cold. Like Mads Mikkelsen's skin starting to fall off his face, and like you can see his lips being extremely dry and like cracked all over. All that kind of stuff, just from the coldness of what he's having to deal with. There's a scene where he's like starting a fire, and straight up, his hands are like purple. And I'm like, but bro, put your hands in the fire, bro. Holy crap. like you can tell it's that kind of a cold weather movie. So Arctic was one that really just made me feel cold watching it in a good way. And I highly, highly recommend. If y'all have not seen Arctic, it is streaming now. It's from the director Joe Penna, who also did Stowaway on Netflix, which was okay, but this is really his standout film. So definitely check this one out on Prime Video. So what is your number 5?
My number 5 is one that I think you've seen. I think you've talked about it. It's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things, directed by Charlie Kaufman. Starring Jesse Plemons and Jesse Buckley. My name's confused. I was like, surely they don't have the same name, but they do. Jesse Plemons, Jesse Buckley, is a couple who are kind of going home to meet. I believe they're Jesse Plemons' parents. One of the couple's parents they're going home to meet the parents.
Yeah.
And it's a very bizarre Kaufman movie. Time kind of slips away as they're going along this what should be one night that starts to feel like an eternity, and it captures so much of what it's like to be in the snow. There's this very, very long sequence of them driving in the snow. It's like a singular take that goes on for so long of them driving slowly in the snow. And I think that's a big part of snow, is having to trudge through it in your car and have how much it sucks and how slow it is. And I think it captures that really well. And it also captures that surreal, untouched nature of snow and how bizarre it can look when it's just untouched, snowy landscape, nobody around. It feels just like something is off, and I think as beautiful as snow can look and something like Umbrellas of Cherbourg, it can also be really just strange and unnerving and timeless in a bizarre way. And I think this captures that really well too. So I also love the movie. It's one of my favorite Kaufman movies, and all the way to the end, snow plays a big part. It's not just about them getting there. Snow is the prop that gets them into the house, but it's also throughout the movie. There's a really beautiful snow sequence where they stop at like a Dairy Queen type of thing, and it looks beautiful with the neon lights and all of that stuff. And there's also the ending, which very much factors in the cold and the threat of snow. So I love that thinking of ending things, and I wanted to get that in here as something that people don't really think about as much, but I think really captures the wide variety of what snow can be used as like a prop device in the movie, and what can also just be used for visually. So I really love thinking of ending things.
I am very happy that you're thinking of ending things. I am thinking of ending things now for not putting this on my list, but I did put it. I would also put that in my honorable mentions, and I will have it on a list of mine when we in June do our best movies of this decade so far stream that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing our own ranking videos, and that definitely will be on my list because it was the best movie of 2020 for me. It was really exceptional, and I thought it was truly like, now that 5 years have passed, I can honestly say I don't like to throw. I know I throw this word around a lot, but usually I don't like mean it. A lot of times, it's like the emotion of the feeling at the time. But I honestly do feel this is now 5 years later a genuine masterpiece. I think, like, and it's one that I feel is very underrated, and I can call it that after seeing it multiple times, studying the film, really dissecting it. It's one that I just really love a lot. So that's a great pick, Jesse Buckley. I'm just obsessed with it right now. So on to our number fours. So now I can talk about what you just talked about earlier, which is The Gray. A really fantastic Liam Neeson performance. We know he's a great actor. He just needs to pick the right roles. And this was definitely one of the right roles. He is exceptional in this, makes you feel for him. The whole cast is great. I think just you really feel for the characters. One thing you didn't mention when you talked about it that I wanted to really point out here that I loved is the score. The score of The Gray at the very end was like dun, 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 dun. Like I would literally like put on that score sometimes just out of the blue randomly because I love it so much. It is really good, really adds to the emotional weight of that ending, and I find it kind of interesting that like these characters themselves are almost like cubs dealing with these alpha werewolves, and it's just like because they don't know how to survive in the wilderness, but these alphas, like these werewolves here, who they've been in this environment, they know what it's like to survive here. Those werewolves are gonna have the upper hand, but these like little cub humans are like struggling, and you can see that. And I love the use of the poem that they use in this. And yeah, this is definitely another one up there with like Wind River. That is also really hard to watch. Like you have to be in the right mindset, the right mood to watch it because it's going to bum you out. This is a really sad movie, and it's one of those films that ends in a straight up like abrupt, super duper abrupt ending. And so when I first watched this, right, I liked the film, but I wasn't used to those abrupt endings like that. So I didn't know how to feel about it. My sister was the one who watched it with me. First words that came out of her mouth was, "The Gray is gay." Oh my God. You know, she couldn't believe it because of the way it ended. But I sat on it for a while and I was like, I really love that ending. And I kept on thinking about it. And since then, I've like been a sucker now for abrupt endings. Like when a movie just ends abruptly, I'm now a sucker for that shit. And
How would you feel if you found out that The Gray actually does have a post-credit scene?
I already know about it. I didn't know about it when I first watched it. And
Took
then
me a while to find that one out. I said,
yeah,
why?
yeah. I was like, really? I looked it up on YouTube one day. And I was like, what? Well, that was pointless. Why would I look that up? Now you just ruined the whole like imagination of that ending, like
What was that?
the whole genius I regret looking it up now because like yeah, it was the whole genius of the ending is you don't know what happens to the two of them, and it is left up to the viewer now for them to decide how this character's journey ends after being on this journey with them for that long. It was really profound. So yeah, anytime I'm introducing anybody to this movie and they look up, hey dude, there's a post-credit scene in this movie. I'm like, no, yeah, but we're just turning it off. All right, we're not gonna watch the post-credit scene.
Yeah, don't
And
watch it. Don't watch it. If you haven't seen this one and you're watching it off a recommendation, do not. There's no post credit scene. This is not the MCU, okay? And like it's there,
yeah.
and it's not. I mean, It's not as conclusive as we're making it out to be, but it's not good. Don't watch it.
No, definitely not good. So now we are in our final three, guys. We are flying through this. Our top three
Are we in the
favorite.
top 3 or top 4?
Oh, did I skip you? I skipped you. My
I
bad.
think I was getting scared for a second. I said, did I lose count?
Yeah. No,
Um,
I lost count. I accidentally skipped you. There we go. All right. So what's your number 4?
I don't want to skip over my number 4, the movie I just sat through today for like 3.5 hours to
Oh yeah.
get on this list. All right. So I know we were doing a winter or snow related list. So I went through a laundry list of various snow related movies and trying to dig up something that I'd never heard of that looked really, really good. And the one for me was Winter Sleep from 2014. This is from the director of About Dry Grasses. If you saw that film from, I think, like 2 years ago or so now. But this follows a hotel owner and his wife in rural Turkey who are living similar to The Shining. It's like this hotel is closing down for the winter, and we have to stay throughout the winter. And it's much like The Shining. It's about like this relationship kind of starting to fall apart over the course of this winter, and examining the characters, each perspectives. And The Shining, I feel like it's very schlocky, obviously with the horror stuff and the bloody elevators and all of the big, huge performances from Jack Nicholson. It's very fun to watch, but it's not necessarily very introspective on the character. But this is almost like The Shining if it was taken very, very seriously. It's like 3 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. So it's a long sit, and it's very like slow paced, deliberately slow. You're sitting there a lot of time just with the characters, but it gives you a great insight into these people and the complexities of these people. And someone similar to Jack Nicholson's character in The Shining, who wants his wife to be very obedient to him and wants his wife to sort of fall in line with what he wants to do. And that toxic masculinity starting to manifest itself more and more over the course of the movie. So if you enjoy The Shining and you're like, what if that was a slow burn foreign drama, check out Winter Sleep. It's The Shining, but taking itself much, much more seriously in its themes. You can watch it for free on Canopy with your library card. So check that one out.
Nice. Yeah, I'm definitely have to check out Winter Sleep because I am a really big sucker for the director, which is Nuri Bilge Ceylan or Kalen, however you say his last name. But I've only seen 2 of his films, which is About Dry Grasses, as we mentioned, and Once Upon a Time in Tolia. So I still have a few other ones like The Wild Pear Tree, 3 Monkeys, like Uzak, and Winter Sleep. Like I still have a few films of his to check out.
Yeah, this guy was not on my radar. I had seen About Dry Grasses, but I didn't realize that they were connected until after I finished Winter Sleep. And I was like, I'm going to look into this one. And then I was like, oh, I actually do have a connection to this director, but I got to check out a lot of his work. I didn't realize he was of the level of acclaim that he was until I started looking into it after sort of blind diving into Winter Sleep.
Oh, yeah. He's got at least, looking at it, he's got like, yeah, he's got 4 movies that have like a 4.0 or higher on Letterboxd.
Yeah, because Winter Sleep won the Palm at Cannes when it came out. I had no clue. I was like, oh, the movie that's streaming that has a high score on Letterboxd. And then I realized afterwards that it had all this acclaim going into it. So it's a sign to just watch movies blind sometimes. You hear it's good, throw it on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hey, that's the best way to watch a movie, in my opinion. Now, I did that with Red Rooms last year. Was blown away by that. So that's the best way to watch a movie, in my opinion, is completely blind. So yeah, that's one that you've put on my radar. I just got to make 3.5 hours basically of room in order to watch it. So once I have that much time on my hands, I'll definitely give it a look for sure.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for long movies, so when I see over 3 hours, I'm like, sign me up. You know, not everybody's like that.
Yeah, I know I'm a sucker for long movies as well. I just gotta I gotta sit down and plan it today. That's why when I was watching Seven Samurai earlier, I was telling mom, I was like, okay, we're gonna start this at like 1 p.m. just so we have time because of bathroom breaks. I know you're gonna want to cook dinner and all this stuff. We're gonna want to finish. This is gonna be not a 3.5 hour experience. This is gonna be more like 4.5 hours by the time we're done because of all the breaks and all that stuff. So, uh, yeah, that's so it's definitely something you have to make time for. But whenever you can invest yourself in long movies like that, it's great. I think Roger Ebert said something of like no bad movies ever uh, too short and no good movies ever too long or something like that. Forget
Hmm.
how the phrase went, but it was something similar to that. So now onto our top three.
Let's see what we got. I'm wondering
Yeah,
if we'll cross
yeah.
over. We haven't crossed over yet, but there are some big hitters that neither
We
one of us have hit yet. Oh, we
we
crossed over
did
once. We crossed
yeah, we
over
crossed
once.
over once with the gray. So that's our only crossover though so far. We'll see if we have another crossover. I assume we're going to with my number three, which my number three and my number two have literally switched, been going literally back and forth all day today. So you ask me on another day, maybe it'll be different for me. But for now, my number three is the Coen Brothers Fargo.
Wow.
Is is my number three for me. Yeah, not number one. Again, this would be maybe number two or number one on my list regularly, but I'm going off of again how the snow is utilized, how it makes you feel when you watch it. This is definitely a cold feeling movie for sure. You can definitely get that kind of sense with just everything going around, all these characters, all the way that they act towards each other, how cold they are, how cold and depraved humanity can be. It's you definitely can get that idea from the themes and just from the presentation as a whole. All the performances in here, Frances McDormand winning her Academy Award for this, rightfully so. The script also winning the Academy Award, rightfully so. Excellent screenplay. William H. Macy is like a perfect scumbag in this. And you've got, of course, Peter Stormare, Steve Buscemi, who are also excellent in here. The whole wood chipper sequence is just iconic. We all know that sequence by now. It's truly, in my opinion, the Coen brothers kind of magnum opus, if you will. Like their their most groundbreaking work, their best work that they've done. I really love Fargo, and I even love the TV series. And in some way, the TV series might actually be better than the movie. And I love the movie. The movie's in my top 100 films period of all time. So I love the movie, but the show might even be better than the movie than the movie for me, and that's a rarity. So Fargo is my number three.
My number three is one that I'm sure is going to be in the next couple picks from you. I might have to justify it being this low, but my number three is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, okay, interesting.
You might think it should go higher because it's a very iconic, frozen, isolated, cold movie. Uh, you have the opening sequence of the ice and the glaciers and the Arctic lab setting, so it just feels like that icy isolation of the snowy world and the paranoia and all of that of this movie. But for the only reason that I don't have it at one or two is only because, like, when I think of this movie, I think of all of the cool practical effects, and then I think of the snow. Like, the snow is like number two for me, whereas the next two movies, the snow is like number one. So that might sound like a stupid logic, but when I'm doing a snow list, that was like what I had to come down to when I broke these last few movies. But this is an incredible movie, and it captures, like we've been talking about, the paranoia and isolation. Something like 30 Days a Night tries to go for this a little bit, but obviously does not capture what the thing captures. It feels almost like every movie of this vibe is trying in a way to be the thing. So you got to recognize the thing for what it pulled off, and even being a remake, but also being able to completely capture its own thing, for lack of a better word. I really appreciate what the thing does, and Carpenter is lauded for like Halloween. I almost feel like the thing is like, oh, and also the thing, yeah, he did that too. And the thing I think has to be like among maybe his best movie for me. So it's got to be on the list.
Oh yeah, it's definitely his best movie. It's definitely my favorite horror movie of all time, period. Which is why it's a good transition to talk about my number two, which is The Thing. Because yeah, I really adore this movie. I think this is just utterly fantastic, and this is the movie that I talked about, the gray and the abrupt ending. That was like my kind of introduction to that kind of stuff. The Thing is what made me fall in love with the abrupt ending nature of stuff, because the way this ends with them just saying like, let's just wait it out a while and see what happens. And I want to play the Thing game because I am a big fan of it, but apparently, again, this whole the gray logic happened with this franchise too, where apparently in the video game of The Thing, they tell you who the Thing was at the end of the movie.
Oh, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
And it's like, oh my god, seriously. So part of me doesn't want to play it now because of that, because I love the mystery of just not knowing, and it's really fantastic. The score from Ennio Morricone is exceptional. That dun, 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 like almost like Jaws, in a way, with like just the like two notes that play throughout. Someone one time described it as like a heartbeat, but it's like a mimic of a heartbeat. It's not an exact heartbeat, which is just like what the Thing does. It's like imitates and mimics human beings, but it can't be a human being. So it's kind of in line with what the score does in this movie. And yeah, all the characters, the ensemble characters are great. And here, I think that this really deals with snow isolation really well. That's why I'm good with putting it at number two, because yeah, the snowy environment, the way it's just everything comes together, like how you can see in the thumbnail how like frozen Kurt Russell's beard is in one scene. It's really, really well done. And from the get-go, you start off just like scanning the Arctic with the dog running around and such. And again, if y'all are animal lovers and y'all have never seen The Thing, be warned. That's all I'll say. Yeah, the body effects, the body horror effects in here are exceptional. Some crazy effects work that is, to this day, still unbeatable in my opinion. We've had great body horror like The Fly and like The Substance as of recent, but to this day, I still think The Thing has the best effects. And the fact that this was panned by critics and like hated when it first came out is baffling to me. Baffling, because this film is so good. So yeah, The Thing, John Carpenter's masterpiece, in my opinion, is number 10. Yeah. And I'll be meeting John Carpenter in March.
Wow.
at a convention. Yeah, I'll get to actually meet him, and I don't know if I'm gonna have him sign my Halloween Steelbook or if I'm gonna have him sign my Thing Blu-ray, but I'm gonna
It's a hard choice.
but I'm definitely gonna have him sign one of them, and I'm definitely just gonna have to talk to him about this movie and some of his other work. So yeah, that's our number two. So that's another crossover. I wonder if we have the same number one.
Yeah, I still have my number 2, which is also a crossover. We
Yeah, your
we
number two.
kind of swapped our 2 and 3 here because my number 2 is Fargo, the Coen Brothers movie, classic Fargo. When I think of winter shots, I think of Paul Bunyan standing there in the snow. I think of the dead body laying there, surrounded by seemingly nothing. The flipped over car, and just like we talked about how surreal the snow can look, and there's a lot of surrealism in this movie. It's not your typical like David Lynch kind of surreal, but it in a way it is. Like, it has all those oddball characters and stuff like that too that you would know from Twin Peaks, and it has that showing you really odd images of just like a body laying there in the snow. What the hell am I looking at? And you can like over the course of the scene figure out what you're looking at. And I really appreciate what this captures about the people who live here. I mentioned all the way back in the Nook of the North how I appreciated that, capturing what it is like to live in snow, and this captures just the casual mundanity of snow for a lot of these people. Like, when we go out and it's snowy, we're kind of like, oh my god, I gotta go out in the snow today. We gotta like change our whole routine, stay home all day. But for these types of people, that's just like, oh, I guess there's a foot of snow today. I still gotta get up and go to work. We talked about snow as a scary thing. We talked about snow as a beautiful thing, and it's both of those things all at once in Fargo. And I think it captures that oddity of Coen Brothers. And so they have that weird touch of being scary and funny at the same time, and they capture that in the weather. The weather is scary and funny at the same time, and I think snow in a way is what you make of it. And when it comes back to Fargo with that line towards the end, and she ends it with, it was such a beautiful day. Like, to her, this is a beautiful day. To somebody else, they're like, oh my God, snow, that's terrible. My day is ruined. But for her, it's a beautiful day, and I think this movie is trying to remind us to see life from a simpler perspective, and to see annoyances like snow as a beautiful thing that we don't always get to see. And some people are going to go their whole lives and never see snow. And we've been seeing states this last couple of months where it snowed for the first time in many, many months, and they get to go outside and be like, oh my God, it's snowing. And that kind of reminded me, like, snow can be really, really cool too. It's not just an annoyance. It's not just scary. It's not just, a killer. It's also a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And there's some people like Ross is never really gonna get to know what snow's like because he's in San Diego. But man, you're saying you're gonna laugh at me because we shut down work here and such over like 3 inches or 2 inches of snow, and then you're saying like, oh yeah, and then we get like 10 feet of snow or whatever, and it's like, golly.
Yeah, maybe not 10 feet, but we've gotten feet of snow. Like, we've gotten a lot of snow, and you have to dig your way up to snow above your head, and that's how it is. But it doesn't. And I really think Fargo captures how mundane snow can actually feel to people who live here in the Midwest, where snow is just kind of a normal thing that happens all the time.
Yeah, yeah, they really make it feel like part of just the average day life, which is really nice. So, um, we're probably gonna have another crossover, maybe, with our number one.
I have a feeling we won't, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay, let's see what happens. Because my number one is I didn't even mean for this to happen. I got two Kurt Russell joints at number 2 and number 1 because my number 1 is The Hateful Eight. Now, here's the thing. All of you know I'm a Tarantino guy. I adore Quentin Tarantino. He's my favorite director of all time. I will always watch his movies. I've seen his movies already like 20 times a piece. Like, I've seen like his movies a ton. Like, I'll just like put them on sometimes and just watch them randomly. Like, I watch a lot of his movies. Like, every year I have to watch his films. Here's the thing though. The Hateful Eight, he's never made a bad movie. So it's a good movie. I want to throw it out there. It's still good, still decent, but it is my least favorite Quentin Tarantino film. Even, yes, even lower than Death Proof. Death Proof is like his second worst, in my opinion. I think The Hateful Eight has some stuff in there that kind of takes me out of it. Like there's that scene where like it's like a dream sequence and it's like taking the guy into the snow and then the guy he like drinks his piss or whatever. It's weird. and there's like this there's like some other like after he drinks his piss, he like gives him a blowjob or something. It's really weird. And then there's like the other scene that's just some other scenes in there that are just that don't really work for me. And there's some stuff that definitely just I felt could have been done better. I felt like it fit, like it could have been tighter. I liked the murder mystery aspect of it. Thought that was interesting. It's like Clue, but like in a but like as a Western, which is kind of interesting. So I like that. The reason I have it at number one, despite me saying it's my least favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, this is the champion of the best use of snow I've ever seen in a movie. The snow is like a monster in this movie. It's like a kaiju of snow. Like this thing is, you see them coming out there and the dude has to put on his boots and he's like this trying to walk in the snow blizzard just to close like the barn door or walks in there and he's like completely drenched in snow. And then they're like having to have like hot coffee throughout the movie and such and drinking on hot coffee and such just to try to get warm. And like and Bruce Dern is like in a blanket trying to stay as close and like close up and warm as possible in this movie. So so to me, this is the greatest use of snow I've ever seen. It's in that, I mean, Kurt Russell's mustache already was goated in this movie, but like seeing the snow all over his mustache and everything, and just like in the facial hair all over Sam Jackson's facial hair and like hat and coat and everything, like just it is so well done, and it makes you feel cold. It makes you feel the kind of isolation of being stuck indoors, and if you go out there, you're basically going to freeze to death, kind of deal. It really makes you feel that way. So kudos to Tarantino, kudos to the snow department, because it's the best snow I've ever seen in a movie. The score in here finally won Ennio Morricone his Oscar. Very excellent score. The do 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 do. Another excellent score in there, and it's one that while I don't revisit it often, I still can get some entertainment value out of there. I watched it once. I refuse to ever watch the extended editions again, or the extended edition of this movie again, because the extended edition is like slightly over 3 hours. But what it does is, instead of making it a movie format, they do a limited series on Netflix. So then it's like they split it up into episodes. So like the next episode will be the next part of the movie. I'm like, what? I'm like, no, I don't like that format. That's really weird. Just give me a movie that's gonna be over 3 hours. That's weird. So yeah, I don't really watch the extended editions anymore, or extended edition anymore. But the theatrical edition, I'll definitely watch. This is actually my first Tarantino film in a theater, because I was late to the party on Tarantino. I got into his filmography in like 2013, 2014. I was binging his filmography, and then when I realized that Hateful Eight was coming out, I was like, oh, I gotta see this next one in a theater. And so this is my first Tarantino film in theaters, and a really good one to start off with. Again, it's not me knocking on this film. I still enjoy it. I still think it's a solid film. I just don't love it like some people do. It's got like a 4.0 on Letterboxd. I don't know where those reviews are necessarily, coming from, but it's still pretty good. So
I'm a really big fan of this one. I lean more towards the 4.0 people than I think you do. I think I really enjoyed the isolation and the build up and how the second half just becomes like this totally different movie, different tone. I think Tarantino loves to do tonal shifts like that. And I always remember doing that road show. I don't know if you saw it at the road show or just like a normal screening, but prior to the normal release, they did this like road show where they traveled around with the 35 millimeter film of it and showed it at various theaters. So I went to the road show, but we got a big book, and the Tarantino came out at the end and stuff like that. So it was a really, really cool experience. I always will remember that experience. My first Tarantino in a theater though was Pulp Fiction, so that was a good one to start with. But yeah, I always will remember the experience of watching this one at that road show, and yeah, it does capture Snow really viciously. You know, in that sequence of Samuel L. Jackson dragging the guy out into the tundra to do unspeakable acts. You know, an odd scene for sure, but it is a lot of snow in that scene. So I understand your pick.
Yeah, that's. And if I'm doing a snow list based purely on the best usage of snow I've ever seen in a movie, I think this is king. This makes you feel hateful towards snow. Literally, you know, it's called the Hateful Eight. You're feeling hateful towards snow because, like, damn, it's a rough one. But yeah, that is my number one. So what's your number one then?
We went in opposite directions. You picked a movie that makes you hate snow. I picked one that makes you love snow. You know, we talked about snow so much in this episode, and how do you rank a snow list? You know, is it about scariest snow? Is it about most snow? Is it about like most impactful snow scene? But for me, the number one snow movie has to be the movie where snow comes to life and forms into a man. So for me, my number one is Frosty the Snowman. How do you not have the animated Frosty the Snowman on your list? You know, it's got to be on there. It's a movie literally about a snowman, like a man of snow. Snow is the main character of this movie.
It was a short film, so that's why I was kind of teetering around with it. Like, I don't know if I want to include it. You know,
like, you know, it's 25 minutes. That's around close enough. But look, yeah, I watched this so much as a kid. This is the iconic Christmas movie for me more than any of the other Christmas movies. So I always think of this when I think of snow time, when, you know, the snow starts coming down for the first time in the year. You start hearing the song in your head. You start hearing the voice. You know, you go, oh my God, he's coming. Frosty's coming. And, you know, it's a great movie about snow, literally, you know, and I think it makes you love snow. It makes you want to go out and play in the snow. We talked about how scary snow is, but when I think of snow in my childhood, I think of how much fun it was to wake up and see snow and run outside and roll around and throw snow at my brother and go sledding and build a snowman like Frosty. And I went for this at my number one because it's such a happy embodiment of snow. We've had such a dark list here, but when I think of snow, I don't think of all of this isolation and all of this, you know, misery. I think of Christmas morning, and I think of, you know, building snow forts and throwing snowballs at people, and I think of Frosty the Snowman. So that's why I put Frosty at my number one.
Man, you're lucky you can think of Christmas morning, because every time I've never had a white Christmas, so every time I look at snow, I'm always thinking, oh man, I can't wait for a snowy Valentine's Day or something like that, because it's always like in February here that we get snow. We always skip December, and then sometimes we'll be lucky to have some in January, but it's always a February snow for us. That's just how it is up here in Virginia. But yeah, that is a really good number one. I again, I didn't include it because it's a short film, but I definitely understand why you put it on here. If we're talking about snow in general, it is a movie. It still is technically a film, and so because of that, it definitely would count. And I actually own a whole there's several of these I would want to give a shout out to, because I own the whole Christmas classics collection that comes with like Frosty the Snowman right there. and then it comes with the one that I grew up with the most, which is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that like claymation one. So
I also grew up with Santa Claus is
no,
Coming to Town. I thought about doing that one
yeah,
for this spot, but then I realized one is
well, that's
about
fun.
a snowman, so I had to go with that one. But yeah, if you love these classics, weirdly they're not on any of the streaming platforms at all. The only way to watch them is to just like go on YouTube and find someone who uploaded them, and hope it doesn't get pulled down. But that's very, very weird to me.
Yeah, or like if y'all own them on physical media, that's another way to.
Of course,
That's why
buy
physical media
physical
is
media.
great. There you go. And this one also comes with a sequel, Frosty Returns. Don't know if you've seen that one, but there's a
Definitely
sequel
not
to
on
it.
the list,
So
but if you're a Frosty
yeah.
fanatic, he does return.
He does somehow
He
somehow
returns. That is
Frosty
true.
Returns. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, I am missing a DVD in this thing. What? Oh my god. What just happened? Okay, that is drama for another time. That's gonna have to that I'm gonna have to deal with. But yeah, that will basically do it for our list, guys, of the best snow movies that we could come up with. Again, a very hard list to make overall. There's so many movies we had to leave off when there were so many like stipulations of our own saying like, okay, what uses snow the best or all that kind of stuff. So it was a hard list to come up with for sure, but I feel pretty confident in my list for the most part, and I think all these movies, if you're stuck inside for a snow day, you can't go wrong with either one of these to turn on and check out, because you have nothing better to do and you're snowed in. Might as well check out some of these movies to give you guys either some comfort or some panic, whichever route you decide to go with. So, yeah. Do you have any other closing thoughts?
No, I'm hoping that I'll be seeing Captain America tomorrow. So if you want to see how I fall on the very, I would say, mixed reception based off of the first couple of reviews, but I'm going to be seeing it anyway. So I'll be watching it Thursday night. I'm going to try and jump on here right when I get home from the theater and just do like a few minutes of my initial thoughts afterwards. But we hope we may end up reviewing it also together as the channel. So. But if you're really antsy and you want to hear my thoughts, I'm going to be jumping on, weather permitting, to review it. There's tomorrow night, which is like the preview night. So come on here and see if it's actually worth going back to the theater, giving Marvel your hard-earned money once again. They're trying to win us back. Is it going to happen with this one? We'll see.
We'll see. I'm seeing it on Friday, so I'll see how it is. I'll let y'all know how it is. But yes, that's going to be our next big review for you guys. Will be Captain America: Brave New World. As far as other videos coming up, of course, we're going to be doing a Valentine's Day stream. I don't know what yet on Valentine's Day. I'm running through a few ideas, but we'll definitely come up with something when we brainstorm for you guys to do on Valentine's Day. Of course, this Saturday, the drinking games continue, and Austin and I are doing a Madam Web 1 year drinking game.
That is truly a masterpiece right there. I'm sad to be missing out. I may end up just watching and drinking along with you guys because I've been craving a Madam Web revisit, so I have a chance to rewatch it with you guys. I can't wait.
Maybe I could try to tempt Tristan into letting you come on for that episode. But yeah, I'm excited for that one. And then also, as far as other stuff coming up, just a lot of reviews, a lot of more awards coverage as we're kind of nearing the end of this season. So
you just reviewed Hard Eyes, so if you're looking for a Valentine's Day horror movie, check out the Hard Eyes review.
Hard Eyes review is there. Again, we just talked about our Nora and I'm Still Here bet that we did on the last Awards Roundtable episode. So you guys want to check that out. then that is now up on the channel. So that'll do it, guys. Thank you all for being here, for tuning in, watching this, and make sure y'all stay warm, bundle up, drink some hot cocoa. It's going to be a cold winter, but we're here to provide you some comfort with our videos. So make sure you like this video, subscribe, share, throw down in the comments below your favorite snowy movies. Would love to hear which ones are some of your favorites. And we will see you all in the next video. Until next time, keep staying warm, my friends, and keep on watching those movies.
Keep building the snow.